This is part 1 of 3 in our series, Men Speaking on Men's Mental Health. We're serving the conversation a little out of order, kind of like life. This first segment is titled, Can Women Handle the Truth? The full episode's coming after part 3.
And so that's what I think he's speaking to, is there's a vulnerability with Charles, if you know him.
Yeah.
That is very unapologetic and it's very warm-hearted in nature.
Mm-hmm.
But as a man, I do understand how society, how a lot of women may take that the wrong way. They've never seen him fight. They've never seen him do anything else. They're just using that shit to judge him. And it's dumb. But that is it. So in recognizing that, that's the key that you need to know. As a person, as a man,
I get that. I get that.
Understanding, then you know how you can navigate. You can either authentically be you, or you can switch shit up so you can get what you need to get.
And that's where, and I know you was about to say something, Adrian, but this just made me think of something. I remember having this conversation, and it stemmed from a Breakfast Club interview with Will Smith and Martin when they were promoting Bad Boys for Life. And Will was talking about how in order for him to really be successful in Hollywood or whatever, he had to kill the Fresh Prince, because everyone looked at they didn't see Will Smith, they seen the Fresh Prince. And I had this conversation on a podcast, and I had to simply ask, did you ever have to create a character in order to get ahead? And that's something that I had to do, because I was looked at as vulnerable and I don't want to say soft, but I was, I wasn't looked at as the street person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I had to create this version of myself to appease the certain type of girl that I wanted.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became like this internal battle within myself, because I know I'm not this person.
That's hard.
I know I'm not, but I have to. But in order for me to at least get this girl's attention, or at least make people think that I'm not this way, I have to show off and do and act certain ways out. And then when I'm home, I'm looking at myself in the mirror like, why?
Right.
So that's kind of when he was saying that resonated to me, and it made me think about that.
Yeah.
And for me, I just changed.
You just changed.
I just changed. I mean, it's cool that he had the ability of still keeping a sense of himself, because that's the honest, raw portion of himself. Me, I just adapted, because that's just what I do. I don't spend much time in the why. I just spend more time in the what is.
Well, how is it? I mean, now I consider you and Faye, his wife, David, best friends. You're so similar to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question for each of you, whoever wants to answer, is okay, so that happened, right, when you were younger. But then when you get in a relationship with somebody that's, you're serious about, how hard is it, or was it, early on, say with Faye, or, in other relationships for the two of you, how hard was it to just open up and be vulnerable? Because that's what's required for it to work.
Maybe. I don't know. I look at it this way. I mean, you knew.
Well, I said, how hard was it?
You say how hard was it, as if I'm extremely vulnerable.
No, I'm saying I'm assuming that you are vulnerable in moments. Your wife knows you. She knows you.
Yeah, but she knows me. She knows who I am. Like, okay, how can I explain this? Women can know a man like the essence, like how can I explain it? You can know the core of the man, right? You can know who he wants to be, who he's supposed to be, who he's striving to be. But you may not know that's the best way I can put it. Most women, very, very small fraction of women truly know the insecurities that a man has. It's just a fact. Most men, that's the most vulnerable part about them. It's not their
Can I
emotions.
add something?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I think that women, intuitively know. They may not know from
You
a
don't know what they
man
are though.
telling them. I
No,
think a
you
wo
don't know what they are. I
I
mean,
mean, I just
you could assume to know because that goes back to my other point of if women knew, then they would respond to it and react accordingly, so
okay,
that that man wouldn't have those insecurities.
okay. Go back to what you were saying because I don't
So,
want you.
so all I'm saying is, in a lot of ways, you see the representation of the man and who he's trying to be, who he's striving to be. And that goes for everybody. It doesn't just go for women. I didn't want to make it, we were talking about a husband and wife relationship, but it's the same way for their kids. You're not trying to be your most vulnerable to the people that are supposed to see strength in you. And so those insecurities are what you don't necessarily get in vulnerability. You do get emotional vulnerability, sure. You get what I'm saying? Like you can get
I do. I
somebody
think
can open
my block is for me personally is I can see you at a weak moment. I can see you vulnerable. I can see that in you, and that's not gonna diminish my view of you. It's not like if I see you as a strong person,
right,
okay, I understand that you are a strong person, and then I see you in vulnerable moments
right.
where you're being authentically you and you're feeling that feeling, that's not gonna diminish how I see
Well,
you.
what if the man's insecurity is the opposite of what you think he is? So say a man's insecurity, say a man is a hard worker, but his insecurity is he really just wants to be lazy. He feels lazy. He wants to
Mhm.
quit. He wants to give up. Those are the type of things that a man is not going to share with people, or if he does, it's very few. It may be person, but it's not they're not just going to talk to you and be like, "Hey man, I don't want to go to work for the whole week and I don't care about none of this." They're not telling their girl that shit in most situations. They're not coming home to you and being like, "Yo, work was so hard, I just want to cry." They're not saying that. You can think you feel that. You think your man is telling you everything. It's not that. You get what I'm saying? Some
Mhm.
men don't even like asking their significant other for intimacy because it comes off as too soft.
Some men don't like asking for
Yeah, so
okay.
some men
Mhm.
may say, "Damn," in their vulnerable moment, they be like, "Man, I just want to make love with my girl, but she gonna ask me for all this other shit, and then if I ask her, she gonna just, oh man, you know what? I ain't even gonna ask." Like some men get to that point. It's a lot of insecurities that
And
come along.
some women will jump on you and say, "Why didn't you just do it? Or why didn't you just take me? You know, what you
I
be
mean,
a
that's what they
man, be
say.
a man."
That's what they say. Tell them like, nah, you said you were hungry, your head hurt, and you wanted to watch the show. Like anything. And I'm not speaking like now. I'm just saying in general throughout life. Even when God, even when I was who you knew I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
in my late
Yeah.
teens, it was a lot easier for me to just go get what I wanted to get from who I needed to get it from, as
Mhm.
opposed to going through the battles.
Yeah. Well, that's
That
making
I
me
wanted
wanna
to
ask you this question. You know, for men, is that, um, tiring to initiate all the time? Because I mean, if I was a man, I mean, if that was like the woman's traditional role,
yeah.
I just would not be wanting to do that. So, is that something that's tiring, or is that just like, it's no big
So
deal?
women play a hard role in this. By nature and in my experience, when women want you to like them, it's a very easy thing to do to get them to be physical. But as you get comfortable and you all know each other and there's a balance there, that's where the disconnect comes, because now you have to try harder than you would have tried in the beginning, if that makes sense. So the initiation process could be more of a hurdle, right? So that's why a lot of guys cheat as well, is because the effort that they have to put in it isn't as hard, but they're not thinking about the consequences of everything that comes with that action. That one action can have a ripple effect that will destroy your whole life.
Mhm.
In addition to it not meaning anything to you, but people don't understand what that means. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
in nature, you can't create this without having more females than males. Just talking about animals, not people,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
there's a lion, there's a whole bunch of lionesses and cubs in the pride, and there's a one lion, right? And you see a lot of that in nature, because the women are really the ones that are the creators. The men are just planting a seed. So by nature, as men, it's easy for us to plant the seed. It's harder for us to stick with the pride and nurture and raise and protect. That's the effort. That's the work,
Mhm.
not the hunt, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I I have a couple more questions. One is, how can a woman who is friends with a man, she's literally a friend or like a little sister, how can she be supportive when they are going through a tough time? Maybe they're going through a divorce, maybe they're experiencing grief, but they're experiencing a tough time emotionally, and they may be trying to wall themselves off, or you just don't know what to give to a man when he is experiencing something like that, as a friend and you're a woman.
I mean, I have answers, but I'll let other people go too. Y'all got something off the top of your head? Or
Well,
I
I would just say, I know you're saying it as a friend, but this could go for friends as well as people wanting to be more than friends. If you find out what that person's love language is, there's 5 love languages according to the book, and if you cater to that love language, which is the primary love language, and then everybody has a secondary love language. If you cater to that, like mine's is acts of service. So if somebody does something for me, or bring me a meal or something like that, that goes a long way in establishing that relationship.
Mhm. That's a really good idea.
to a degree,
To a degree.
yes.
What are you
And the
saying?
reason why I say that is because like my number one love language is physical touch.
Mm.
So that's where that kind of will teeter. Where if it's a friend, I wouldn't want
Well, yeah,
physical.
well,
Yeah,
that's where your secondary love language
the
comes
second one. The second,
so
my second one,
maybe gifts
my
they could
second
buy
one
you
is
something. Or,
my second
or,
one is quality time. So
or,
that one can be more.
yeah, you could watch a movie together
Yeah,
or something.
because I think of, for me, I just had this conversation where one of my friends, when I was going through like a really dark moment in my life, it was the first time that I realized that a person doesn't have to do anything but just be present.
right.
You know, like I remember it, and I remember I like stormed out, and I was like just sitting in a corner, like just bawling. And my friend just came right next to me and just stood there. And when like all the noise in my head kind of went away, I looked up and they were standing right there. They didn't say a word, but they were just showing me that you are not alone in this, whatever it is that you're going through.
Mhm.
And that's what I would say. Like, sometimes I don't need words of like, I don't need advice. I just need you to just be there,
Yeah.
Right.
you know?
Because in those times you feel alone.
Right.
And I think speaking to it, not even to try to cut you off, my bad, cuz.
No, you good.
But I agree with that wholeheartedly, and that's what I was gonna say. If you're in a situation and it's a platonic relationship, no matter if it's male or female, it feels the same. And to me, mine was gonna be to be there. To speak to an example specifically for me, I have a best friend, right? So my best friend and I have been through the worst stuff in our lives, like, sorry about that. Parents passing, frustration with finances, uh, girl trouble, whatever, right? The main thing that we've always been able to do is just be honest with each other through conversation and be around and checking up on each other when we know it's a problem, right? Like you don't have to give that space that you think you need to give a person when they're going through something. You know what I mean? And sometimes I can even speak to this with Charles, and he may be able to tell you the opposite side of it. He's gone through things this year, and when I text him outside of the group chat, it's usually not about that, right? Like I'll check in, I'll get the answer that I'm looking for, which is his real emotions and how he's feeling at the time, and then I just come right back with some regular shit. That's how I do it because that's how I would want it to be done for me. So like when my parents passed, condolences, so forth and so on. And that's what I need to know that you care. But then the people that hit me up and be like, yo, 49ers killed it this week. Or yo, you see LeBron do X, Y, and Z. Those are the people that stick with me because that's what's taking your mind off of whatever's going on. So I say to that person who is a woman, is do what you would normally do as a sister. Come get them. Be like,
Mhm.
man, I know you love cheesecake. I'm about to take you out. We about to go get a slice of cheesecake from this place. I know you love this, so we're just gonna go do it, and you ain't even gotta say nothing. I'm just gonna be here while we do it, like while we watch
Right.
this movie. You know what I mean? That kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
great.
it kind of goes into uh podcast that me and I believe you, Adrian, and Russ kind of all probably watch. I know me and Russ watch it a lot. Rory and Maul.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Maul has this mindset of like he gives if anybody's going through something, he gives them 3 days. They're gonna give you 3 days to just soak in whatever it is that you're going through. After that third day, all right, we got to get out of this. You got to kind of get out of whatever it is that you're going through, or at least let me get your mind distracted or mind off of whatever that's going on. Um, to piggyback off of what Russell was saying, that's something that I've realized and I appreciate, and I tell those that have reached out and have taken my mind off of stuff or just did a check-in, just to be like, yo, I ain't want nothing. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Like I realized during this time that that question holds so much weight,
Mhm.
you know, because yes, people can say like, "Oh, I'm good," but you really have to like hear how they say it because then that's when like if they be like, I'm all right. That's like, nah, you're not. What's
Yeah,
going on? Or if it's a situation where they're just like me and I'm open and honest, I ain't good.
yeah,
Like I'm not, and then I will kind of go through what it is that I'm feeling or whatever. And if they feel like they need to give me advice or give me their thoughts, okay, but if not, if it's just where they know that okay, he just needs to vent.
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
know that I'm not good scares people too.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of something because so many people now wanna be able to say, "I'm not okay."
Yeah, but
So
a lot of people don't know what to do with that. Like, think about it, not from the perspective of saying it, but from the perspective of how people treat you after you say it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever had somebody say, "Hey man, you all right, man?" You be like, "I'm hungry," and they don't feed you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
not even trying to be funny, but like
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah.
So when you
Yeah.
say, "Hey man, I'm not good," and somebody just says, "Damn,"
Right.
Mhm.
they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest part about it
Well,
is
that's because so many people say stuff that they don't mean. You know,
right.
and like when my parents passed away 40 plus years ago, you know, that my father's best friend came up to me. I was 22 at the time, and he said, "David, your father was my best friend. If you ever need anything, you let me know." And so I get back to I go to Houston. My car broke, and the transmission went out in my car, and I went to him and asked him to loan me, not give me, loan me $500, and he didn't do it. You know, and I said, "So why did you say if there was anything I needed, I can count on
Yeah.
you then?"
Yeah.
You know, so people need to say what they mean and mean what they say.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
true.
that's because he's right. A lot of people ask you how you're doing. They don't really want to know. That's just another way of saying hi. And then if you come back and say I'm not doing good, and I say, "Oh, I didn't expect that. Now what do I do?"
Yep.
You know, so yeah, so that's the way it works sometimes.